Hello there, welcome back to Jennie Designs with Paper. Thanks for stopping by my channel today. I'm using my spreadsheet and a random number generator to create a card. So get comfy and let's get crafty. So first of all, let's talk about what the spreadsheet and random number generator chose. It chose waffle flower for the brand, stencils for the products, ink blending for the technique, the Sarah Renee Clark Color Cube number 1 for the color palette, the Sympathy is the theme, and Twine is the extra. So I chose to use the Waffle Flower Postage Collage collection, and I'm using the snowy stencils and the coordinating die. I will be using this Hammermill 100-pound cardstock. Still not sure how much I love it, and I'll be using this kind of mid-tone brown for the card base. Like I said, the color combination comes from Cube 1 and is card number 180. Although the bluish grays in there, I did kind of substitute for a purple. I am using Simon Says Stamp inks. These are their original inks. I think they still sell them, but I'm not 100% sure because I know they came out with another type of ink. But these are what I'm using today. I have a red, a green, a purple, and a brown. I will also be using this Positively Perfect Craft Tacky Mat to hold my cardstock and stencil in place. Originally, I lined that up on my surface in a portrait orientation, and then I realized that this stencil set works better horizontally. So I picked that up and turned it portrait style or landscape style and got everything all lined up and the paper back on it, and we're rocking and rolling and ready to ink blend. I am going to be using half of a sheet of cardstock, even though a quarter sheet of cardstock would be fine. This stencil set has 3 stencils. They do have registration marks on the edge in the corners, but clearly I'm not using them. I'm just going to use a little bit of Post-it tape to hold it in place because it doesn't go off of the cardstock to stick to my tacky craft mat or craft tacky mat. There we go. These stencils have also etched in each box which color, the light, medium, or dark, you should use for the open part of that stencil square. So the first thing I'm doing are the mountains in this stencil, in these stencil squares, and there are 3 different cubes that have mountains or 4 different cubes. I guess it is 3. No, 4. Sorry, 4 sections that have mountains in them. Before I ink blend, I am using a little bit of water on a microfiber cloth to loosen the bristles on my brushes because I do not use ink blending or my brushes on every card or every day. They do get a little bit of stiff when the ink in there dries. So this just loosens them up a little bit and gets them ready to ink blend. So like I said, this is the lightest purple, and in my color card, the combination was gray, but I felt like in a winter, I could substitute the purple for the gray and it would work really well. And this is a winter scene. Like the title says, snowy stencil. So once I had all the purple on stencil 1 finished, that was everything that was in stencil 1. So then we're going to go ahead and add stencil number 2. And again, I'm just going to line it up. Had I used a smaller piece of paper that fit inside the registration lines, I could have used those registration marks. And there's only one little tiny place where maybe the stencil wasn't lined up perfect, but I think eyeballing it was fine. So the first thing I'm going to do is pull out a darker purple. This is a mid-tone purple, and ink blend in a couple other sections of mountains. I chose purples instead of grays for the mountains because I am originally from the western part of the United States, and the tall mountains from far away look purple. And that's just how we roll out west. It's kind of funny because I have lived in Virginia longer than I lived any other place in my entire life, but that's okay. The next is the cardinals, and I'm using a smaller ink blending brush. I think this is a Tailored Expressions brush. I chose this stencil set specifically because of the cardinals. I felt like because Sympathy was our theme, cardinals could work because there is that thought process that when you see a cardinal, it's a reminder or a message or a token sent to you by a past one or a loved one who has passed on. The next color is my light color of green for a couple of the sets of trees. And then we're going to go ahead and pull on the last stencil. And this is the one that didn't line up super perfect. Also, I don't think that my reds were dark enough apart because in the finished product, you cannot really see the beaks and the wings on the cardinals, they're not a different shade of red. It just, the ink was still wet. They just blended together too well. So I did kind of figure out a way to finish that up, or to fix it up later. So the first thing I'm doing is adding another layer of the light green ink for the trees in this particular section. And then I'm adding a darker red to the cardinals. Like I said, didn't work super great. In between each color, I'm wiping my stencil off with a microfiber cloth just so it doesn't blend together and make mud. The next color is a darker color green. Oh, actually, I think this is still the lighter color green on this. But then there will be a darker color green. And I'm adding the red into the little houses in both of the sections with houses. I used the lighter red, and in the other I used the darker red, but you can't really tell. You really can't tell. And then we pull in the darker green. My ink blending brushes are just a bunch. I have a whole bunch of them from a whole bunch of different people. So I just use the small ones or the large ones or whatever I need. I did use the brown there for the dirt part of the mountains in that particular scene. So you can see that the purple ties in with that color combination pretty well, even though I, took out that gray. So the next thing we're going to do is use the coordinating die to cut this out. I will be using my Empress die cut machine, which is what I use most of the time. It is an electric die cut machine. It's off to the left-hand side of my desk, and I don't need a ton of space for it because it is on a Lazy Susan. I saw that on Kathy Zilski's YouTube channel, and I'm like, that is genius. So I can put my die cut machine in a much smaller space. So once we have that run through the Empress, we're going to go ahead and remove the tape and the die. So this die cuts out the edges and then leaves a dot detail in between each of the images, which you could take a paper trimmer and cut those apart to be individual stamps, which I did like the winter or Christmas time of 2023, I think, when this product suite first came out. The next thing I'm going to do is put in that scrap of paper into my Misty and stamp a sentiment. I knew I had with Sympathy stamp set in this Mint Owl Studios stamp. It's a sentiment stamp set. I don't think Mint Owl Studios makes stamps anymore. And this has been this might be like one of the first non-Stampin' Up! Stamp sets I bought, for real. Hindsight being all things that they are, it was too big for the card. I stamped it on the white cardstock in the brown ink. I think it would have been better if I had used this brown color that I'm using for the cardstock and like white heat embossed it and used a much smaller sentiment. And truth be told, once I got the card finished and I sat down to edit the video and I realized I didn't like it, I fixed the card. I fixed it before I put it in my drawer because I didn't like the sentiment being so big. So I did not edit that. I'm just telling you in all the truth. I'm telling you I changed it. The extra from our random number generator thing was twine. So I'm grabbing some really old twine in my stash from Stampin' Up. And that was kind of the point of my spreadsheet this year was I have stuff in my stash that I don't use because I've forgotten that it's there because it's not the newest, brightest, shiniest, all the things. So I wrap that twine around the card panel, and I'm going to add the card panel to the card base with foam tape. And I pulled out my Altenew roll of foam tape, and I went to lay it down there and realized I can't do this in just a straight line because there's that cut out the dot, the perforation detail. So I had to cut a bunch of little pieces of the foam tape and add it to the background, and then peel off the release tape paper. My goodness, words are hard. And then I will go and visually center this onto my card base. Because you know me, I'm not mathing. I'm using the dots on my work surface and I'm going with it. So here is my sentiment. I did trim it down off screen because, I just did. And I can't figure out where to put it because it is so big. I did ultimately decide to go with the bottom right-hand corner, mostly because that little stamp, a little stamp image in the bottom right is the least detailed. And so I'm covering up not much. But in the end, I really didn't like it. So like a week after I made this card, I changed it. I did add a little bit of a bow to our twine with the same baker's twine. In fact, I think it's the part I cut off after I got done taping it down on the back. I'm just adding a little bit of a bow. I'm going to go ahead and fidget with that and fuss with that. I'm not very good at making the bows. I don't know, especially with twine. I feel like the twine gets twisted up and doesn't bow right, but whatever. It's there. It looks cute. I'm going to cut down the tails, and then we're going to add a little bit of white copy paper to the inside of the card base. And that is because I don't want to mess with using a gel pen inside the card. I'm impatient. It takes too long to dry. And this is a cheap, easy alternative. It's just copy paper. It is lightweight copy paper, and half the time it's scrap. To make the birds just stand out a little bit better, I added black to the beak and added a little dot for the black eye. There's still not a lot of detail in the wing. It is what it is, right? It's one of those things that people aren't really going to notice. So here's the card. I hope you enjoyed the video. I have a couple of other videos linked right here at the end that I think you will also enjoy. I also have that subscribe button. If you have not yet subscribed, I would love it if you did. Leave me a thumbs up if you liked the video. Leave me a comment down below, and have a really fabulous day.